Healthcare not-for-profit accounting. So the main source of revenue is medical services, right? You go to the hospital, they perform services on you, and they hit you with a disgustingly high bill, right? You basically walk in there and breathe their air, and all of a sudden it's like $1,000 of bills you got to pay. Patient service revenue is accounted for like in normal business. This means accruing revenue at normal medical rates as the services are performed, even if the full amount is not expected to be collected. And a lot of times it won't be collected, right? They fight with the insurance companies. If there's one thing I choose to not understand, it's the medical financial world. I have my people for that to explain it to me and deal with it for me. That is something I personally never want to get into in the real world. It is a beast. It is something else. So patient service revenue is recorded on a gross basis, but deductions are made from gross revenue to recognize patient service revenue net of deductions. So if you say, hey, you charged me $1,000, but I can only pay $200, well, you're going to deduct the $800 from, because they charge a crazy amount because they know people are going to go in and say, oh, I can't pay this. So the insurance company's going to negotiate it down. That's where not to get into our healthcare system. Gosh, that's a doozy. More healthcare not-for-profit accounting. What about charity care? Well, they do that. I guess they do. I'd love to get some charity care sometime. This includes services provided to patients that are never expected to collect. So if they perform services on me, if they fix my broken bone or whatever, they expect to collect from me. But what if they go in knowing they're not going to collect? So they go in knowing, all right, we've got some people who really need this charity care but can't afford it. So again, we don't really think we're ever going to collect here. We don't expect to. The hospital's management needs to disclose its charity care policy in the notes to the financial statements. That's important because the users of the financial statements need to see, okay, well, how does charity care get accounted for? And charity care is not recognized as receivable or revenue because you're never going to collect anything, nor is it counted as a bad debt expense. We just needed to disclose that policy there. Deductions from patient service revenue. Well, contractual adjustments from third-party payments, right? So this is insurance companies fighting. Policy discounts, administrative adjustments. If you say you can't pay a little bit of it, deductions from patient service revenue, right? They charge me $1,000. Maybe the insurance company, knocks off $100 from there. Policy discount knocks off $100. I say I can't pay $100. Just a couple. These are deductions from patient service revenue. Bad debts from services billed to patient before the hospital begins its process of determining the patient's ability to pay, such as ER services billed at their full cost before probability of collecting is calculated. So you go in and they perform $1,000 worth of services on you. Well, they don't really know how much they're going to collect. They need to go through a whole calculation process and determine what they think they're actually going to be able to get from you. So the bad debts have two treatments. These are going to either be operating expenses or a deduction from revenue. So the operating expenses that we see right here, these debts, they result from failure to collect revenues from anticipated earnings. So, they perform $1,000 worth of services on you and you just don't pay. They don't collect it from you. Deduction from revenue. This is going to result from an inability to collect large volumes of revenue that was never assessed for quality or collectability. So if we never assess if we think we're going to be able to collect it, then it's going to be a deduction from revenue, right? But if we say, hey, we should be able to collect $500 from this guy, and he just never pays us, well, then that's going to be an operating expense.